Hey everybody, John McClellan here, ATX Hot Sauce, atxhotsauce.com. If you like the videos, be sure and subscribe below. Check out our other videos on our channel. Today, it's that time of year. We're going to talk about hatch chilies, hatch green chilies to be more specific. You know, hatch chilies are one of my favorite things in the world. They come out about every August, September. Hatch chilies are basically like an Anaheim chili, family of that. There's only one place these can come from. You know, when you're getting champagne, it has to come from Champagne, France. If you're going to get Napa Valley wine, it has to come from Napa Valley grapes. Well, with hatch chilies, they have to come from the Hatch Valley in New Mexico, and they start to ripen about August and September. There's two types of them. There's green and red, and the only difference is the green ones are picked a little early, right? And the red ones are allowed to ripen on the vine and turn red. Those give it a little bit more sweeter, a little more smokier taste. But today we're going to be making a fantastic sauce from hatch chilies. It's our hatch chili hot sauce. All right, how do we make this hatch chili hot sauce, right? Well, first of all, we got green hatch chilies. We're gonna have some onions. We've got garlic, tomatillos, some Roma tomatoes, a little cilantro, and my favorite, to add just a little bit of more spice than the hatch chilies are gonna give us. We got 3 dried ghost peppers we're gonna make with this batch. So stay tuned, let's get all these things cut up and into the jar. Now remember, when you're cutting up anything for fermentation, you're gonna do it in a brine, one of the most important things you gotta remember is you gotta cut the fruits and vegetables up. Cut them up. You gotta let that brine get into and around all inside that chili, or that fruits and vegetables, whatever you're doing. I see some of the biggest mistakes that people do is they'll take whole peppers and put them in a brine. Well, the problem with doing that is that number one, they're gonna float to the top because they're filled with air. And number two, the brine can't get down inside the fruits and vegetables. And so what you can have is your fruits and vegetables are not protected inside that brine, and it'll just rot from the inside out. So you don't want to do that. Make sure you chop it up. You can do a coarse chop, you can do a fine chop, or whatever you want. It's your preference, but just make sure you cut them up, make sure that brine can get into all those fruits and peppers. I'm gonna add 2 Roma tomatoes into those. Fresh garlic. Tomatillos. Now, where you're dealing with tomatillos, one of the things you want to make sure is that they come in a husk like this. Make sure you peel that husk off, discard it, and then they're going to be a little sticky, so make sure you wash that off too. And we'll just cut those. Yeah, the onions. Now, you've probably heard me talk about this a lot. When you're making these brines, making these fermentations, you got different new recipes that you're trying. Make sure that you write it in your book. This is my book. We're gonna start, write down all the ingredients in this, and actually this is gonna be batch 200. How apropos for this moment. Favorite hatch chilies, and it's batch number 200 in this book. Maybe you write down the name, you're gonna write down the date, right? And then you write all your ingredients down, because what happens is after you let this ferment, let's say for a month, maybe 2 months, or even just for 2 weeks, you're not going to remember what it went in there, right? I've done 200 brines just in this book right here, 200 fermentations. If I didn't write it down, I wouldn't be able to go back and see what was in that. If it's the perfect sauce that comes out, I want to be able to recreate that sauce. So that's why we always write it down. Write down the values of the weight of everything. So first, let's start out with the hatch chilies. Let's see what they weigh. I like to do everything in grams. For me, that just seems to work better. Okay, we're going to zero out our scale here. We're going to put the hatch chilies in. Those look fantastic. All right, so we've got 1,215 grams of hatch chilies. All right. Let's measure the onions that we're going to put in here. Make sure we zero that scale out. We've got 230 grams of onions. Zero it out. We've got 420 grams of tomatillos. And zero that out too. And then tomatoes, and that's 5 garlics are going to be 287 grams. With garlic. All right. Now we're going to combine all this in a jar. Then I'm going to show you how to do the right salt brine percentage and how to figure that out very, very quickly. Stay tuned. All right, let's get started on this. Now, the cilantro. We have one bunch of cilantro. It's been washed. I like to put the cilantro on the bottom so it doesn't float up to the top. So we're just going to stuff that right down in there. Don't lose some of that. That'll get compacted down. Next, we're going to add in our tomatillos. All right. And then we've got our tomatoes and our garlic. This is going to be so good. I love hatch chilies. I love hatch chili season. You know what? I've also forgot one of the main ingredients. We also, on top of the fresh hatch chilies, we're going to add some roasted hatch chilies too. All right, let's talk about the roasted hatch chilies. I like that smoky flavor too, the roasting gives. A lot of times, like a local grocery store around here, they'll roast them for you. You can roast them at home however you want. One of the things I do recommend though, after you roast them, is make sure you take the stem off. This is what they're going to look like when they're roasted and they've been sitting in the refrigerator, right? And you can feel the stem right here. And we're going to pinch that stem right off, put that in there. Pinch that stem off. Pinch the stem off. Pretty easy. It's kind of a mundane thing. God, the smell. These things smell absolutely fantastic, by the way. I know they're not even cooked or hot right now, but they are. I mean, I can just smell it wafting up right now. It's amazing. Okay. One more of these guys. That stem's being a little tricky. Okay, we're going to take this up. I'm going to wash my hands real quick too. All right, always make sure we're weighing all of our ingredients. We've got the roasted hatch chilies too. We're going to put in before we put the raw peppers on top of it. So we've got 250 grams. Don't forget to write it in your book. 250 grams of the roasted chilies. All right, put that there. We're going to add these in. Okay. Now let's add in some of the fresh ones in. Really simple recipe, lots of flavor, pretty mild sauce for everybody in the family. Even for Aunt Margie, who may not like stuff hot. This gives a nice, good, creamy, tangy sauce. All right, looks like that's all the peppers I can squeeze in that bottle, so we've got some left over. So remember, I'm writing all my ingredients down in this book over here. I want to make sure that I deduct the ones that we didn't use from the totals that I put there. This happens sometimes, you know, when you're winging a recipe. That's what I love about cooking. You know, your craftsmanship can come out in it, and it's I don't know, it's just fun to do, fun to create things, right? See how they turn out. So we got 478 grams of the green hatch chilies that we're going to take off. 478 minus 478. All right, let's get to making the brine. One of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to cap it with some onions to hold the fruits and vegetables down inside the brine. How do we make our brine? It's a great question. The easiest way, and I like to do about a 3.5% salt to water percentage. To make that, it's really, really easy. The best thing to do is to use something like this and do it in liters. So for every liter of water, that's 1,000 grams. 1,000 grams of water. For every liter weighs 1,000 grams, all right? So if I'm trying to do a 3.5% brine, well, what's 3.5% of 1,000? Well, that would be 35, wouldn't it? So if we times that by 3, because we've got 3 liters here, that comes out to, yes, you guessed it, 105 grams of salt that we're gonna need to put in there. So what do? We're gonna measure our salt. Now, one of the things I like to do, and what you should do, is use kosher salt. Make sure you zero your outs. Let's do grams. So we're going to measure out 105 grams of salt. Kosher salt's the best. You can use Himalayan salt. Sometimes we go a little bit over. All right. And that's a little bit over, so I'm going to pour some of this out. There we go, 105 grams of salt. We're gonna add that to our 3 liters of water, because that's 3,000 grams of water. 3.5% is 105 grams of salt. Now we'll give this a quick stir. When it clears up, we're gonna add it to this fermentation. All right, we've dissolved our salt in our 3 liters of water. Got 105 grams, that's 3.5% salt brine that we're gonna add into this fermentation. Now, a lot of people use weights. I use weights in some of my fermentation plates, bowls. People make glass weights that you can put on there too. What I like to actually do for a lot of mine is I'll take a yellow onion or a white onion, cut it like this, and I'm going to use this as my cap. But let's get the water in first. That's all dissolved in there. Make sure you dissolve the salt very well in there. Another thing you want to do when you're adding this water, give it a second to rest, because it's still filling all those cavities inside there. All right. Grab a plunger here. You'll see the water level start to go down just a little bit as it fills all those nooks and crannies inside here. Okay, we're gonna add a little bit more water. You wanna leave a little bit of headspace, not too much at the top. As this thing starts to ferment, it will expand, and you don't want it bubbling out. We're gonna take our onion and use it as that cap. This onion's a little big, but that's okay, we'll make it work. That was fun. There we go, that's gonna hold everything down in there. Bam, now we're gonna get our lid on there. At this point, make sure you sanitize very well. We've got our lid here. I've already put some star sand on it. Gonna add this to the top. Put it on tight. Don't forget your airlock. And one of the things I like to do, and I talk a lot about this on my other videos, is we want to sanitize these very, very well, right? So I have a little mixture of water and star sand here, just because I don't want any bugs getting down in there, causes mold or whatever it may be. Now, what kind of water do you put in here? We can use the brine to put a little bit of water in there, or I like to put a little bit of vodka in here too. Vodka keeps all the bugs and everything away, and doesn't let those microbes in. So I'd fill it up to about right here with a little bit of vodka, the brine, whatever you want. Thank you. We'll use the vodka. As Julia Childs would say, a little for me and a little bit for the fermentation. If you don't know who Julia Childs is, I recommend you look it up. All right, now let's get the cap on this. Bam, what do we got there? We got a fermentation with hatch chilies. In about 2 weeks to 3 weeks, we're gonna do another video and show you how to make the sauce. I hope you enjoyed this. Be sure and check out below. Subscribe to us if you like the videos. We need more subscribers. We need more people with more feedback. Hope you enjoyed this one today. Remember to log back in, look for part 2 coming soon.